information is flying far too fast for even the likes of me to keep up with it. Morning, everybody. I did have a plan for today. I got an outline. It's up there on the screen. And I was going to talk about talking heads and war. One of the talking heads that just irritates the living crap out of me, who took to the airwaves to explain why we should be doing things according to his idea because he thinks he knows better. And it just didn't set well with me. Maybe I'll keep that for another day. Yesterday, Ben came home from school. Now, as I said on the podcast on Monday, maybe it was Sunday, I don't remember, I have tried, and Cammie and I have tried to keep much of what's going on out of Ben's concern. I told him last week was, your concern is exponents and pre-algebra science class and getting this stuff done, because this is what I need him focused on. It's what I need him worried about. For some reason, he's got a hard time with that. And the problem we have with his math is that I used to think I was good at math. I told you this before. There was a time in my career when I was doing rhumb line distances between 2 points on the globe, pretty much in my head. Not easy, but I could get it close enough to know if the computer was doing it right or not. A rhumb line is a distance between 2 points on the globe at different latitudes. And it was important when targeting weapons, ballistic missiles, submarine-launched ballistic missiles. At any rate, I used to think I was decent at math. I never thought I was great at it, but I was pretty good at trigonometry. Algebra kind of still, it could get confusing to me if I didn't concentrate. But basic arithmetic, addition, subtraction. I was in accounting for 25 years. Let's do that. That said, this stuff Ben is trying to do, not only the stuff he's trying to do, but the way they're doing it is just foreign to me. And I struggle with it, and I get frustrated, and that gets him frustrated. And so I keep telling him, you need to get your homework done before your mom goes to work, because I mean, those of you that are close friends with me on social media know that I've posted questions from his homework on Facebook, on social media, on Twitter, saying, help, I don't get this. I don't know what they're trying to do. Half the time I don't understand the question, let alone how they're getting the answer. Anyway, that's the big struggle with Ben. He has recently had some issues with school. He's not enjoying it. It all comes down to one class, and that class is health class, which he started this quarter, which I tried to tell him, okay? Back when health class started, I said, you need to take this class, because he could have opted out. He could have taken something else. I said, no, you need to take that, because A, you're going to have to take it sooner or later, but B, I know this will shock you, but your dad, me, there were a lot of lessons that I should have learned at a very young age about those kinds of things that I didn't learn. And so there were things that I didn't learn about health issues, I guess, well into my 30s. There were things that, you just do. And I don't want to be embarrassed. I'm not proud of these things, but there were a lot of things that I just never learned. A girlfriend once who made fun of me because of the way I put on my deodorant. So there were things that you learn along the way that you should have learned early, but I didn't. And so I keep telling him, learn from your old man's mistakes. Learn from my mistakes. That's why I'm here. I'm here so that you don't have to put up with the stuff that I had to put up with because I just didn't learn it, didn't know it, was never told those things. And health class will help with that. That's what I told him. He doesn't like health class. And I will tell you, it's one of the things that it just broke my heart when he said this. He came home one day and said he just hated health class. And I asked him why. You got to tell me why. I can't help if I don't know why you hate it. And he said, because it makes me feel bad about myself. That was a couple weeks ago. I think we've gotten past that. But yesterday he came home and I had spent the day didn't do a show yesterday. You might have noticed I was exhausted. And I had some other things going on and just trying to keep up with what's going on with Ukraine situation and the ridiculousness of the fact that if you're not waving a Ukrainian flag right now, you're a Putin supporter, which is absurd. But, you get the idea. Just because I'm not in favor of nuking Russia over Ukraine, somehow I'm a Putin supporter. At any rate, Ben came home and he was down again. And so I pulled him aside and said, what's wrong? And he wouldn't tell me. And then after Cammie left for work, he came in here and said, Dad, really worried. Worried about math. You already did your math homework, so you don't have to worry about that. What could you have to be worried about? And he looked at me and said, I'm worried about the Ukraine-Russia war. My 11-year-old looked at me and said, I'm worried about the Ukraine-Russia war. Now, look, I'm a child of the Cold War. I grew up in the 60s, grew up in the 70s. When I was 11 years old, it was 1974. Things were weird in the world at that point. You had the whole Israeli-Egyptian thing, the Sinai Wars going on the year before. You had, right after my 11th birthday, actually, you had struggles with the Soviet Union. You had all kinds of things going on. And we were still doing duck and cover drills in school, which is where you hid underneath your desk because somehow or another, this was, number one, supposed to save your life in the event of a nuclear holocaust. And number two, it wasn't supposed to concern us any because somehow or another, the fact that we knew how to do duck and cover drills, that stupid turtle on the cartoon, would save us in the face of Russian aggression, Soviet aggression. We would be fine because we knew how to do duck and cover drills. No, I don't remember ever really worrying about it. I don't remember ever even thinking about it until I was in high school and all of a sudden geopolitics became an issue and became interested in those things. Point being that my 11-year-old, my Ben, worried about Ukraine, Russia. I did something I don't normally do. And I said, you know what, let's go in there and just talk. So we did. And we went in there and for about 2.5, 3 hours, missed my class last night. I have a weekly class on Wednesday night in some Jewish theology and missed class last night. And it was just more important. It really was. We sat in there and we just talked. And I said, what is it that's worrying you? What do you worry about? And you know what? I hate those people that post their profound statements from their children. But Ben looked at me and he said, so I guess I hate myself. He looked at me and says, well, I'm worried about what happens if we get involved. So, well, first off, you're too young, so you're not going to be joining the army to go do it. And number two, I'm too old, so they're not going to take me to do it. So it's really not going to be up to us. But as a nation, it is concerning because if we do get involved, well, people are going to die. And living where we live, because this is a very heavy military community, you're likely going to experience some of that. He seemed to grasp that. He seemed to be okay with it. But it left me wondering. And it wasn't that long ago, 5 or 6 years ago, that I had been on yesterday's date, because it came up in my memories. I'd been watching Fiddler on the Roof, and he had come in towards the end of the movie when they were leaving Donatevka, and he wanted to know why they were having to leave. And I'd actually said then, how do you explain to, I think it was 7 years old or 6 years old at that point, how do you explain a pogrom to them? How do you explain man's inhumanity to man to a child? And I don't mean that in a rhetorical way. I'm not asking for your advice. I'm really not. It bothers me because I really had hoped to protect him from these kinds of things until he was old enough to understand them. And he's not old enough to understand them. He's not old enough to understand Ukraine versus Russia. And I rhetorically asked that on Facebook last night. How do you explain it to him? And of course, the answers I got range from the black helicopter theories about how this is all about Hunter Biden and COVID to whatever else. But I'm not really thinking in geopolitical terms here. I don't think Ben really needs to understand the concepts of, the KGB origins of Vladimir Putin versus NATO's expansionist attitudes. And I don't think he needs to understand that. What he needs to understand is we're people. Just because I see things a certain way doesn't mean somebody else does. It doesn't make them right, doesn't make me wrong, but it does mean that other people see things different ways. And so you have to make allowance for that. It's kind of weird because even as I say that, I'm realizing there's an event in my own personal life, completely unrelated to this, that I'm realizing now that the person who said something about it yesterday probably doesn't see it the way I do because he doesn't have all the information. Anyway, completely unrelated point. I am concerned with my son's concern because I don't know how we explain this to kids. I don't know how we explain COVID to kids. I don't know how we explain any of this to them. But how did my parents explain the Cold War to me? How did they explain to me the fact that at some point I might be incinerated by a Soviet ICBM? And as I recall, they didn't. In fact, to this day, I don't know that anybody's ever explained it to me. Figured it out, but I don't know that anybody ever sat me down and said, here's the geopolitical reasoning for why you have to hide underneath your desk. At the same time, I don't know that I could sit down with Ben and explain to him, here are the historical reasons. Here is the history behind why you have to do this, because I don't know that he cares. I don't know that I care. What I do know is that son is scared, worried, he's concerned. Ben is a very empathetic person. It's kind of where you didn't get it from me. I know that because I've been told you have no empathy. But Ben has empathy. Ben has feelings. Ben gets sad when things bother him. He was very sad last night. So I had him watch a little bit of stuff on the news, not much, just so he would get a feel for what was happening. And I told him it's not likely to ever really involve us directly. I mean, you're going to hear a lot of discussion about it. And then it was like a light bulb went on in my head. Wait a minute. I haven't talked to him about this. His mother hasn't talked to him about this. Where did you hear about this? How do you know about Ukraine versus Russia? Expecting him to say, oh, it's all over YouTube or all over TV, whatever. And he said to me, we talked about it in school today. In health class that he hates. It makes him feel bad about himself. Now, look, I don't have a problem with him discussing it. In fact, it's probably in the arc of positive things in the world, it's probably a good thing. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. Man, I sure had hoped to keep him safe from all of this stuff for as long as I possibly could. Realizing that it's not possible. Maybe that's the worst evil in the entire world. We can't protect our children. Bunch of stupid madmen who think borders are more important than children.